So you want to book an escort, but you're worried about getting scammed. You came to the right place. I'm Jade Blair, kind of worker, you know, online and in person here in Australia. And there are a lot of scams out there. Catfishing, where basically you see the photos of the escort you like, you contact them, make a booking, you show up, and they look completely different. So sometimes that means they've used someone else's photos, like a model or even an AI photo. Sometimes it is their photos, but it was from like 20 years ago or ridiculously photoshopped that they look nothing alike. The other scam is where you contact the escort, make the booking, pay a deposit, and they ghost you, just taking along your money with them. Both of these are so morally wrong and should not be happening. And if it has happened to you, I am so sorry. No real genuine escort does this or wishes this on anyone. It is deplorable behavior. But here's a few things you can do to kind of protect yourself against this. Unfortunately though, it does require a bit of time and effort, mainly in research. The first thing you're going to want to do is kind of critically think about the actual platform that you found your escort on. So unfortunately, there are things called scrapper sites. Now, these are websites that are usually hosted in foreign countries that have very lax laws around internet use, cybersecurity, copyright, etc. And they will go to legitimate websites with legitimate escort ads, take their photos, their contact information, their links, their bio, and copy and paste them onto their own website. But they'll often say that the escort does services that they don't do, or does their services for much cheaper than they actually do. And the reason they're doing this is because they want traffic. They want lots of clients to be super interested in all these escorts that are super cheap and wild on their website, because if they have lots of traffic, they can sell advertising spots. And they do all of this without the permission or knowledge of the escort. I've had this happen like 7 times to me, and these things are incredibly difficult to get taken down. I have a team of lawyers that literally just send DMCA requests constantly, but because they're in countries that don't have great protections, they're just not enforceable. There's nothing much I can do to get these taken down. So a really good thing when you're contacting an escort is to tell them where you found them from, because then they can immediately correct you if you found them on a website that they don't actually advertise on and had no idea they had a profile on. Reverse image search your escort's photos if you can. There are a lot of tutorials on how to do this. PimEyes is a great service. But the reason you want to do it is because if it's a scenario where the person is using a model or an influencer's photos, if you reverse image search them, the original source of that photo is more likely to come up. And you'll be able to put 2 and 2 together pretty quickly. You know, if they're a model in Russia, they're probably not given blowies in the Gold Coast for $50 a pop. See if they have any type of social media. Most escorts have some form of social media these days. The most popular are probably X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. And when you're looking through these profiles, you're looking for any signs that they are a real human being. So pictures that look like real humans, they're not AI, they're not ridiculously photoshopped, and they match the pictures in the advert. If an escort has had a Twitter profile for 3 years and posts once or twice a week a new photo, and you can look back and see all that, it's probably pretty sure that they're legit. So regular updates, photos, and looking how long they've kind of been around in the industry can all be really great tells, as well as how they interact with other people in the industry, other escorts and other clients. Are they kind? Are they professional? These can all go a long way to tell you how professional they're going to take your booking and how serious they are going to take your pleasure. If an escort doesn't have social media, or maybe they do, but they've only posted once or twice, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a scam. There are lots of business owners out there in all sorts of industries who just do not want to engage with social media because it is a literal hellscape. The amount of time it takes to make content, to post content, and particularly in our industry where we're constantly getting censored and deplatformed because of the stigma against our profession, it can be very, very hard to keep and maintain these profiles. So a lot just choose not to. But seeing if they have social media, how long they've been around for, how they're interacting with other people, if their photos on their social media sites are similar to their adverts and seem real. These are all ways that you can use to ascertain if they are, and it's one tool in your toolkit. You want to use lots of different tools, right? So if you had this gorgeous Victoria's Secret type model who's doing blowies for $30, it doesn't add up, right? So get a feel for what the kind of typical prices are for your area for different types of escorts and different types of services, and see if they're kind of similar. They don't need to be spot on. There are definitely going to be people who are more expensive and less expensive, but if the typical price is like $500 to $700 an hour for a GFE service in your area, if someone's giving you that for 50 or $100, use your brains. It's probably a scam. You will notice two things I haven't mentioned though. One is reviews. Here's the thing, reviews can be another really great tool in your toolkit, but they shouldn't be the be all end all in your toolkit. Unfortunately, there are definitely people out there who write fake reviews, even positive ones. I don't entirely know why. I think it's because they want a little bit of attention from other guys, giving them like a pat on the shoulder for going and sleeping with these women. Sometimes they have this like fantasy in their head that they really get off on writing down and sharing with others. I'm not entirely sure, but I have definitely read glowing, extremely positive reviews of myself, and I am 1000% sure I never saw that person, ever. So it definitely happens that a positive review can be fake. And likewise, so can a negative review. You are looking solely from the perspective of the client, and you might not get all of the information. There have been many times that I've read a very negative review of an escort where basically she's refused to do any sort of services other than a massage, even though they paid for like a full service. And then you talk to that escort and you find out the reason they refused is because the client refused to wear a condom. Yeah, they left that bit out of their review. So sometimes there are reasons why an escort might be acting badly towards a client, and it's usually because a client acted bad towards them first. However, of course, there are genuinely bad escorts out there who are bad at their job and are rude and disrespectful and are just trying to get the money out of their clients and do not care at all about their pleasure. So these reviews could be absolutely genuine, or they could be 100% fake, and it doesn't matter whether they're positive or negative reviews of the worker. You have no way of knowing. So read them, that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Like I said, they might be genuine, but use a bit of common sense. The other thing I haven't mentioned here is deposits. There's definitely guys out there who will claim that every escort who requires a deposit is a scam artist, but it's not true. There are very legitimate reasons for why escorts require deposits. One is just because it makes business sense, right? Cancellations in this industry are so high. Without a deposit, it's like 50-50 whether a client is actually going to show up. And this is for a whole heap of reasons. It's incredibly nerve-wracking to see an escort, so a lot of people just chicken out, which understandable, but very frustrating for the escort. Some guys deliberately book workers even though they know that they will never go ahead with the booking. And they do this because they get off on knowing that the worker is getting all dressed up, putting on lingerie, having this shower just for them. So they get off on that knowledge instead of actually having to pay to see the worker. Some are address collectors. They want to know where the worker is staying because it makes them feel special and important and like they have some sort of power over the escort. So they'll make a booking to find out the worker's location, but never have an intention of going ahead. And often for touring workers, they're often competing with brothel managers. So brothel managers will call up their escort who is touring in their area and will make a whole heap of fake bookings with fake clients so that the worker will come be fully booked up and not be able to take on any more clients, but not actually be making any money, reducing the brothel manager's competition. This happens all the time. And escorts lose a lot of money when this happens. So often we have to book spaces like hotel rooms and pay for them to see these clients, or we have to pay to go to wherever that client is, whether that be through touring or just an out call catching a cab or an Uber. It's also the time to get ready and the money there too. It does take a lot of money to do hair and makeup, and they're consumable, so you use them once you wash them off, they're wasted. There's also the opportunity cost. If I take on one booking, it means I have to turn down all the other bookings for that time as well. So it makes good business sense to get a deposit because the client's more likely to show up. It's also a good screening method. It links the client to the worker. So heaven forbid, if something went wrong and the client got violent and the police needed to be called, it would be much easier for the police to identify the client because they have this paper trail. So there are real reasons why escorts require deposits. Now, of course, that does not mean that you have to pay one. You are absolutely allowed to have your own boundaries, but if you contact an escort who requires a deposit and you don't want to give one, that means you need to move on to another escort. So if this does happen to you, I understand that it is incredibly frustrating and wrong that it has happened, but please be careful not to get upset at the worker because it probably isn't their fault. In terms of catfishing, it's usually actually not the worker's fault that this has happened. In this scenario, usually the worker will actually be working for an agency who is in charge of all of that worker's marketing, including all of their adverts and maybe social media that they have. And so they may have no idea that their adverts are misrepresenting them. Likewise, if they're working for an agency, you might make a booking with Escort A. Escort A might not be available, but the agency might not want to lose the money. So they send Escort B without telling Escort B that you were expecting Escort A. And so the worker has absolutely no idea. In the case of ghosting with your deposit, sometimes this actually won't even be the escort doing it. So sometimes you'll have third parties take a legitimate escort's profile photos, set up a fake social media account, and start contacting clients, getting money for deposits, and running away with them. But all of this was never the actual worker. It was always a third person who had stolen all of their advertising materials, and the worker had absolutely no idea. So before you go on blast about XYZ escort took my deposit and ghosted me, make sure it actually was that escort and not a third party pretending to be that escort. And a really great way to stop this from happening is to make sure that you're contacting that escort appropriately. So look at a couple different websites that they advertise on, their own website, look at their social media, and make sure that the contact methods add up and you are using the correct form. Another thing to note is that an escort that you have never met before will never reach out and DM you privately. That is 100% a scam. We don't do that. The only time an escort is going to contact you out of the blue is when you've given them permission to do so. So this will often happen for touring escorts. They'll tour in a location, get some clients, they'll say, hey, next time I'm in the area, do you mind if I send you a text? The client will be like, and so the escort might, next time they're in the area, be like, hey, I'm here, would you like a booking? That's normal. But just following someone's Twitter page and then getting a DM saying, hey, want to make a booking? Not so much. That is a scam. Escorts do not reach out to you first. I hope this information helped. Overall, it is very difficult, and I fully understand how wary clients are of sending deposits or screening information for this reason. I really empathize with you, and I wish it was easier and safer for everyone in this industry. I hope some of these tips have helped keep you safe. And of course, remember that they're tools in a toolbox. You're often going to need multiple ones, and you've got to take everyone with a grain of salt and use your common sense about them. But if there's any tools that I've missed, please comment them down below, and definitely check out my links to see all of me. Anyway, until next time.